Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel La Fraise. I'm Noémie, I'm a student in costume making, and this week I'm taking you to Paris. I mean, I'm not literally taking you to Paris. I went to Paris with my wife and I'm sharing this beautiful day with you guys. So the day started nice and early at 6:30 because obviously we have Oh, hello. You knew I was going to talk about you. I was just going to say the day started nice and early at 6:30 because I had to take my fur baby out. Yes, this one who's participating in the video. You're right. And yeah, so we started with a little chill walk at 6 a.m. to then go to the station and take the train. I tried to make this trip a little bit more budget friendly, so we took the 3-hour train. If you take a high-speed train to Paris, it is actually an hour 20 minutes, but we took 3 hours. It was long. Francesca was grading thesis, you know, being productive on the train. I tried to read, I think I read 3 pages of my book and then promptly fell asleep basically until we arrived in Paris. It's so annoying because I had chosen a book which would be the perfect length to read in the trip, like going there and back, and because I just read on the way back, I just read half of the book. I would definitely finish that book if I had read in both directions. In any case, we had a big day ahead, so I'm glad I had a good nap. We then arrived in Paris and there we went to the Petit Palais, which Francesca kept finding it so funny because she was like, well, the Petit Palace is already very not petit and the Grand Palace is like even bigger, but every time we were joking because the Petit Palais is like so massive and so grand, and every time it's like, yeah, that's just my small one, like nothing big, nothing fancy, like it's just ridiculously fancy. It's a small one. So we started looking a little bit around the open exhibition because we were waiting for a tour that would start at 12, and at 12 no guide arrived. And I went to ask the front desk and I was like, oh, a guide isn't there, like it's normal. And the guy was like, oh, the guides are on strike today. First, like, dude, when I asked you, where is the meeting point for the guided tours? Maybe you could at that moment say the guides are on strike, because yes, you answered my question, but like, I'm not caring about the meeting point for the guided tour just because I like to know where it is. Like, if I'm going there, it's because I have a guided tour. So we discovered at the time our tour was planning to start that the guides were striking. And I'm sure they have good reasons. I didn't look into it, but like I'm sure it's valid and everything. But as the tourist, obviously, I was really like, oh, this is really, really painful, because I planned the entire trip around this exhibition and around the fact that I wanted to go in a guided tour for this exhibition. So the dates were a bit more limited because they aren't guided tours, the ones I wanted to do every single day. So I really planned this to be able to do this, and the guided tour fell through. That was a bit sad, but still, never mind. We did the exhibition on our own. It was pretty cramped, to be honest. I tried to film a little bit for you guys, but there was often people walking and reflection because everything is behind glasses. So I have some images, but they're not the best of the best. I will put in the description of this video a video about the exhibition. It's in French, but there are subtitles, so you can activate the English subtitles, and I think it's a really, really nice video to watch if you can't travel to Paris. It's not really a tour of the exhibition, but it's a story of how the exhibition was set up, and I find this very interesting. I love seeing all the little details. It felt pretty special to be able to see this. Like, it's the first time in a century, I think, that all of those gowns have been gathered together, and for some of the gowns it was the very last time being mounted on a mannequin, because after that they are going to be too fragile to be exposed again. Going to this exhibition, it felt like going to something special. If you want to go, the exhibition is still on until the 7th of September 2025, and then it's over for a while. So if you are interested in the Worth exhibition, I highly recommend it. I do think we missed out on the experience not having the guided visit. Obviously, we made the most of the situation to have a good time anyway. We then crossed the road and went to the Grand Palais to go and see a free exhibition that was really cool. It was all cotton attached together into knots and suspended from the ceiling and everything, and then there were drum instruments and people were playing the drums, so people had to line up and were let into the art piece in groups, and everyone was doing drums a little bit randomly, but it really worked and it was just a really great atmosphere, and we just sat there and watched this a little bit and, you know, sat and recovered and gathered the energy for the next step. The next step, which in the end was just walking through the Tuileries garden and then kind of leveled with the Louvre, and then we turned left, and I had spotted last time I was in Paris a Japanese cheesecake place, and I really wanted a slice of Japanese cheesecake. But the place I had found, actually you can't have a slice, you can't even like sit down there, you can just buy a whole cheesecake. I was like, well, it's very hot and I don't want a whole cheesecake. What I really want is a place that has some AC and a cold drink. So we ended up going to a different place where you could sit and be a little bit more chill, and we had Japanese souffle pancakes, which were really nice. I also had a strawberry iced tea, which I was a bit wondering because they said green tea with strawberry, and I was like, maybe it's going to be really bitter and grown up as a drink. No, it was super sweet and it was delicious. And coming from Belgium, in Belgium, tap water is not something you get. You get only bottled water, that's always very expensive. And when we go to France, it's always very, very exciting because we get tap water as much as we want. And on a very hot day, being in a cool room with as much water as you want, it felt like a true luxury. Okay, I just feel like I need to clarify to make sure no one comes at me in the comments. So we do have tap water in our taps. It's just not a required thing that restaurant would give you any free water. It's happened many times. We ask for tap water at the restaurant and they simply say no. They say you have to buy bottled water. Now, some restaurants start to do it, but it's more of a hip special thing to give you tap water than a normal thing. When in France, they don't even ask, you get water automatically if you're sitting down. By the way, talking about the luxuries of France, in Belgium, we don't have public free toilet. Like, those are two things that are unknown in our country, and so being in France and having access to water and toilets feels always so luxurious, because it's like, yes, drinking and going to the bathroom are actually quite essential parts of being a human. Okay, and after we rested and cooled down a bit and had our pancakes, we walked a little bit further to the Garnier Opera, and there we had a guided tour, and this guide was not on strike. And the reason why I wanted to go to the Garnier Opera is that until January 2026 they have costumes exhibited in the opera, and I really wanted to see the costumes, so I looked into how do you go and watch the costumes of the opera, and what internet told me is that you book a visit, and then after your visit you can just roam around and look at the costume. And there we had a little bit of bad luck, which was that our visit actually ran all the way until 5 p.m. and at 5 p.m. the theater closes because it's opening for the evening performance, and so you can't stay as a visitor past 5 p.m. And so I saw some of the costumes kind of on the way during our visits, but I didn't see the tutus I was hoping to see. But honestly, the visit of the opera itself was really, really good. First, what a beautiful building, what a beautiful place, like absolutely stunning. And then the guide we had was absolutely brilliant. I loved the way she was speaking. Every time I have a really good guide in front of me, I'm like, I should be a guide, I would love doing this, but she was great. We had a great visit. It's just, it felt a bit sad to be like, oh, I went for the costumes and that's what I did not get to see. But I think altogether it was quite a nice day. I mean, yes, none of the visits were like perfect 100%, but both were still really nice. It's also so comfortable to be able to take the train back home afterwards and to be back in your own bed in the evening. That's such a luxury we have in Brussels, to be able to have Paris so close by. On the way home, we stopped by the Papeterie du Textile. So a papeterie is a stationery shop, and I was like, a textile stationery shop, like what is that? And it was exactly what I was hoping it would be. It had a bit of a stationery corner, but then it also had all of the rulers and all of the things you would need for tracing and measuring in sewing, and then lots of fancy shears as well. They have the really expensive Kai ones there. I was hoping to find a French curve that was more curved than the one I have, because my teacher was recommending we have a smaller, curvier one. I couldn't find exactly the one I was after, and so I didn't buy anything there, but it was still a nice little visit. I mean, if you want a little sewing souvenir from Paris that is not fabric but a bit more of a tool, they also had those like massive boxes of pins, for example. It was really funny. That's maybe a shop to visit. On the random note, we saw some Tim Tams in a really random shops, and like not so expensive Tim Tams either. For the international friends, Tim Tams are a biscuit that are typical from Australia, and we really like those in Brussels are so expensive. And what are random Tim Tams doing there in Paris? We didn't get any because it was so warm. We didn't think they would survive the heat all the way to go back home. And then we also saw an Aussie cafe, and we saw some bananas in pyjamas. So was it an Australian day after all? We don't know, but lots of little nods to Australia during our day. And while we were away, Milo had a great day with one of our friends. It was also nice to get cute photos of him during the day and to know that he was doing well. And he was happy to see us once we were back in the evening. The train trip back was hot. So first it was 3 hours again, which when you're on your way back and you want to get home, it's like Paris is so close to Brussels. Why are we on the slow train? To save money, it's fine, but it was very long, and also the AC kept stopping in the train. It would stop for like maybe 10 minutes and then restart for 20 and then stop for 10 during the whole trip, but every time it would stop it got so hot. It was such a hot day, and when you're on a train and the AC stops, like every time we're like, oh my god, like I was red as a tomato being so hot, but still we survived the train trip back. We made it back home and we had a lovely day in Paris. So I hope you enjoy coming and watching those two exhibitions with us. Thank you so much to everyone who's tipped me a coffee. I'm pre-filming a lot at the moment, so don't worry if you don't hear your name. It will come in the future. I am writing everyone's names down and I'm not forgetting you. Don't forget to like and to subscribe and all of that jazz. And I will see you in the next one. Bye! And don't forget that you can make anything. And also, you know, have fun in Paris. Bye!